Right, hello and welcome to episode 23 of the SE25 cast, a special American FA Cup episode featuring Eric, Wes and Jack from Georgia, Florida and Atlanta respectively. Hi guys.
Hey everyone.
What's up?
So we all watched the game live today, yeah?
Unfortunately, yeah.
Yep.
Unfortunately. It wasn't a very exciting performance, but we got the job done. So yeah, what did you guys think?
I think Max Meyer was one of my players of the game. He was everywhere, controlling the middle of the pitch and distributing. I think most of the back line also had a pretty good match. Ward, Kelly, and Dan stepped in and were pretty solid.
Yeah, the back line were quite good today. A few little slip-ups from Ward early on. A couple of sloppy passes. Gave a bad ball back to Hennessy. Had to put it out for a corner. Luckily, nothing came of it. Yeah, what do you think about the defence going forward for the next few rounds? Do you think we start playing our main back four or stay with what we've got, Jack?
Honestly, I think we should probably go back to our main back four because this upcoming game is going to be a lot harder. We've been playing Grimsby Town and Doncaster, not necessarily the crown jewels of English football. So, Kelly and Dan, they do a job, but I really don't see Kelly and Dan doing a job against even Swansea, even though they're not a particularly good team. But yeah, I think we have to go, especially Ward. He did all right, but at the same time, Wan-Bissaka is just so much better. You can tell when we're going forward that AWB was kind of missed because Townsend's looking for an option outright, and Wan-Bissaka is just making that run, and Ward's just kind of being a bit of a numpty running around the back, doing kind of nothing. That's about all I have to say about that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Townsend was all over the place today because he had to cover for the empty space behind him because Ward can't fill that gap at all. Man of the match for me was Luca. He started both goals. Great interception for the first one. Played a little 1-2 with PVA and then played a little through ball up the wing. And then obviously the dipping ball over the top for Townsend for the second. What did you reckon about Luca, Wes?
Yeah, Luca, for sure. I believe this was his first action in the FA Cup, if I'm not mistaken. And so you could tell he was class. Yeah, the interception to set up Schlupp for the run up the sideline. So he'll be a fixture in the lineup for the rest of this cup run. Yeah, I can't disagree with that at all.
Yeah, he's been pretty quality. He's probably one of my favourite Palace players of all time, I'm not going to lie. I love him. I love his handsome face. I love his handsome beard. I just love him. I think he's absolutely quality. Yeah, Eric, what did you think about the subs we made today then?
I guess kind of go back to Luca, though. I wanted to say that starting the season off, he was kind of lacking the form, but especially kind of coming off the World Cup and kind of the issues on the Serbian team. But it was good to see that he's kind of been in form lately, being an integral part of our midfield. Overall, I think it was kind of expected to see Benteke come on, get some time with Bats. I think he played a little bit better than Bats did. Bats had a couple chances that could have come from something, but, decent, I guess, for FA Cup subs.
I was pretty let down by Bats, I'm not going to lie. He did a very, very good little movement in the box in the first half and got a header away. A great header that he had no right to get to. Got it on target as well. But no, he didn't really do it for me today.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like we have a curse on our center forwards because all our traditional center forwards just can't fucking do anything. Batshuayi has been kind of disappointing. He hasn't played much, to be fair, but Ayew is technically a center forward, but he's been absolutely useless. Benteke, obviously, we all know how Benteke's been, and Wickham, not much chance, but I don't think he's gonna be very good.
I think going back to the curse, you're probably right because Wickham back in the day was quality. He was really good. That's probably why we went for him initially. He played fairly well for Swansea. He had a good couple of, I think it was a season or two. So maybe it is the Palace curse. I think the last striker duo that I can see us sending out who I knew would get goals game after game was Andy Johnson and Clinton Morrison. And Clinton was in the box today. I was hoping that he'd, lace up and Roy would put him on, but it wasn't to be, I'm afraid.
One thing I will say about Bats that I guess compared to Benteke, he does a better first touch overall. So, it's a little bit different style of a striker compared to Benteke. But yeah, I do agree. Just kind of a poor game overall for him.
Yeah, he's a good hold-up player, that man. He's definitely very strong. I can see why Dortmund went for him. I can see why Chelsea price him where they do. I will say something I found out today, though. It really surprised me. We've yet to concede in the FA Cup this year. How's that?
Just lends credence to our defense. In the Premier League itself, we've had a lot of clean sheets and probably some of the most in the league. And so I just think really shows well for both our A team and both our B team when it comes to the defense. So, I think that's good going forward. And yeah, I think early on today we had some slip ups in the back. I think, one of the guys passed the ball out in the back line, so they gave him a corner. But, overall decent enough. So I hope we keep it going forward, especially when our offense has, historically been lacking.
Yeah, clean sheets wise, it's been fantastic. It's not just in the league, it's actually in the top 5 leagues in Europe. We've got more clean sheets than Barcelona this season, more clean sheets than Juventus. Obviously, there's different strengths in each league, but I think that's a fantastic thing that I think in the Premier League, the only team who's got more than us at the moment is Liverpool, maybe joint with Chelsea, I think. But Yeah, we're definitely in the top 5 for Europe. It's fantastic defense this year.
Yeah, I think Roy sets that pretty well defensively. Today we played a bit of a 4-3-3 when we attacked and more of a 4-5-1 when we defend. It's kind of similar in league games when we have Zaha and stuff, but I don't know. Roy sometimes just really pisses me off with like the lack of substitutions and just generally like you don't know what he's doing, what he's thinking half the time. But then he does set up well defensively, and I think it showed this year, and I think it showed a little last year as well.
Yeah, I mean, Roy's got a lot of experience under his belt. He's obviously a very good manager. He knows what he's doing. I wish he could be a little bit more consistent. I do agree with you there. Like, he's had Sam Woods on the bench today, and Sam Woods, if you guys pay any attention to the under-23s team, Sam Woods is quality youth player who's coming through. I really do expect good things from him in the future. He actually had, I think, roughly 10 minutes against Middlesbrough in the Carabao Cup. It's actually the game we lost, but obviously it was nothing to do with him. He came on for the last 10 minutes. I think he replaced Townsend, I think, on the wing. He was rapid, he was winning balls. He's been really good. I'm really excited about our under-23s as well. Do you guys watch any of their stuff?
I mean, I think it's pretty difficult for Americans to watch U23 stuff unless it's all on the website. But it's also hard to figure out when times are. But I saw Sam Woods on the bench and I was really hoping he'd get time. But at the same time, substituting a defender is kind of weird, no matter what time it is in the game. But yeah, I was hoping he'd get on. I said that in the Discord, but I didn't really expect much of it. And plus, Roy, I don't know if he's going to put all this trust in a U23 player. But I did see his start for Middlesbrough. He did look pretty good. Again, unfortunately, we lost that game, but it's the Carabao Cup, and who really cares?
I see what you're saying. I mean, putting all his trust in an under-23 player, but the last time he put his trust in an under-23 player, we established Aaron Wan-Bissaka, so there's not something to be said on the other hand for that.
That's true. I really think we should be trying to bring through more youth players because the last couple ones have gone pretty good.
And I will say when Bissaka came out, it was kind of out of necessity. I know we had a lot of injuries last year, so, hopefully it doesn't come to that and Woods can get a shot. But I just do remember that it was more out of necessity when we got with Bissaka on, and it turned out for the better.
Right, Wes, what did you think about the, I will say the 2 penalty shouts, but I'm going to rephrase it to the 1.5 penalty shouts, in my opinion. What did you reckon about those?
I'd say the first one, the defender had his arm sort of by his side and he's trying to turn away from the incoming ball. I think that one would be very ticky-tack to give. On the second one, however, the defender's trying to slide, heads past the ball, kind of throws his arm back there in an unnatural position. I thought it was a pretty unnatural position. If you're trying to slide and keep a ball from getting into the box, you wouldn't put your hand up behind you. You're trying to stick your leg out. So I think that one should have been called for a penalty.
Yeah, absolutely agree. First one, some refs would have given that. It could have been given, but I think it was harsh and I'm happy not to have a penalty from that. But the second one, ridiculous. Did you see him rolling around on the floor afterwards holding his head?
That was ridiculous. Trying to save face by holding his head, and clearly all the camera angles showed that it came nowhere near his face.
No, bad tactics there. But yeah, absolutely should have been a penalty for us. I actually had a bet on as well, which included Luca to score. Obviously, Luca's our penalty taker, so that wound me up even more. Mike Dean, though, obviously the ref, Mike Dean, commonly held belief, at least for a lot of people, was probably the best referee in the country. One of, at least. So the first thing I checked out, even before the team sheets, was the referee. I saw Mike Dean and I thought, well, we've been dealt a lucky hand here. We usually get pretty bad refs. Obviously, FA Cup final 2016 comes to mind, and West Ham the other day, and Southampton, actually. I can go on forever. But yeah, I thought Mike Dean, I was like, this is good. There's no VAR in this game, so I want a good, experienced ref. And then he ends up doing that. I actually had a theory. I think that decision was obviously very embarrassing for the FA. There's going to be a lot of backlash on Twitter. Obviously, a match of the day tonight and all the highlight shows, they'll definitely mention it. So going forward, do you think that the FA, in order to save face, will make an extra effort to give us a fair ref?
I can't exactly comment. I'm not FA's mode of going about things, but there needs to be some amount of transparency on, the selection process and the evaluation process of the refereeing within the organization.
I mean, it's basic business, though, isn't it? If you're a catering company, for example, and you sent a newly trained chef who burnt all the food and ruined the wedding, the next people, they did it again, you're going to try and make up for it, surely. Is that not common sense? Is that not fair?
Yeah, I agree. Another thing, going back to Mike Dean, I don't really know much about refs, but I always remember him giving pretty fair, a couple games I watched across Premier League and our games, obviously. I always liked Mike Dean, but today was just kind of a mess a bit. It wasn't that bad, but there's some pretty obvious decisions that could have been called.
I will also say as well, before I forget, absolute quality turnout from the fans today. The sound, the noise, unbelievable. Bouncing the whole game. We managed to get our drum in. I have no idea how that was negotiated, but yeah, fantastic show out. I think a couple in the Discord ended up going there. Yeah, so quality from us. But obviously you guys are over stateside. I don't know what streams you were watching. I don't know who was broadcasting it, but this bell, I've never heard a game in my life that's given me tinnitus before.
Yeah, I was watching on ESPN Plus over here in the States, and I didn't really notice the bell too much, but, you could sure hear the Palace fans loud and clear, singing "We Are the Red and Blue." And honestly, that's kind of what, kept me with Palace all these years, is just the fan base and how passionate they are, especially on the road.
Yeah, quality today. I will have nightmares for the next several weeks at least. Every time something happens I don't want to, I will be hearing ding, ding, ding in my head. Hopefully that doesn't go on for too long because it was a nightmare. I'm not too sure, but I think it might have been a little kid who had a bell. So we can't take the piss too much. Not very kind and all that. But yeah, it was very, very frustrating. And I bet the sound engineers in the BBC recording room were running around pulling their hair out as well, just as I was.
I'm surprised you can hear it on the ESPN because I had mine turned up pretty loud to be fair, but oh my god, it was driving me nuts. I was like, I thought my headphones were broken and I was unplugging them constantly. I'm like, what's going on? But yeah, it was kind of annoying, but it was not that bad. At the end of the game, they stopped doing it because it just got really boring. But yeah, that's about it.
Right, okay, so let's look forward then. Obviously, good game today, but going forward, do you guys want the easiest, best draw going, or would you prefer the ideal cup run? Obviously, the ideal cup run being Millwall in the quarterfinals, Brighton in the semi-finals, and revenge on United in the final. Obviously, that would be a harder route, but I'd much rather win the FA Cup under the dream scenario rather than kind of, for lack of a better phrase, lucking it out.
Millwall, just for maximum madness. Who knows what kind of incidents will go down in South London.
You guys obviously know about the Millwall history. Millwall are based, I think it's only a couple of miles, maybe 3 or 4 miles from Palace. We're very, very local rivals. I think they're a little bit pissed off that we've chosen Brighton to be our main rival because we look at them as below us, I guess. Same with Charlton, probably another football team that no one's ever heard of, and I wouldn't blame you. But yeah, funny fact about Millwall, I actually heard, if you were aware of the Millwall-Everton fight that happened the other week, the previous round of the FA Cup, Everton are coming to Selhurst Park in, I think it's about a month. And word on the street is that all of the Millwall lot will be turning up to Selhurst to get revenge. So I wonder what happens with that.
Oh my god. I would like to go play Millwall and then Brighton because I think that'd be really fun. I guess, yeah, it's a South London derby. I think we can beat Millwall pretty easily. They did beat Everton, but we'll see. And then Brighton, last time we played them, that was a joke. So I think they're due revenge in a way. And then Man United final, if we could win that, that'd be absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it's always a tough game with rivals. To be honest, with a game like that, the whole hype of the game and what it means to the heart of the players and all that kind of stuff, that takes a much more bigger role. So when I say lucky run, I suppose looking at it realistically, there's not too much to go for because, I mean, Wolves on fire, wouldn't want to pull them. Watford, don't like Watford at all. Dini will probably be the star of the show on that one, I hate to say. Obviously, Man City, we were good to beat them the first time, but again, I wouldn't want to pull them. Chelsea or United, whichever one goes through tomorrow, and it will be United. So that, yeah, in terms of lucky draws, the only team that would be lucky to pull, I suppose, would be Swansea, but they still look good themselves. So, yeah, I mean, if we're going to do it, let's do it properly, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Perfect. So, Millwall away, Brighton away, and revenge on United in the final. It's sorted, yeah?
And before we lose to Millwall, like 5-0.
Hey, none of that. Right, coming up next, part 2. Just a quick moment to mention our sponsors, Crystal Palace Candle Craft. For your crafting and candle needs, quote Palace20 for 20% off your first order. Right, hello and welcome back to part 2 of the episode 23 of the SE25 cast. I nearly said episode 25 of the SE23 cast there, but not quite. It's not Forest Hill based. Okay, so this is the special American episode, FA Cup special. We've already covered the Doncaster game. Now we're going to turn our thoughts to America, to across the pond. And I want to get a bit of background on you guys from how you came to support Palace, sporting culture from you guys over there. So, Wes, what about you?
So I'm originally from Atlanta, Georgia. Kind of grew up a sports fan from my father who moved to the Atlanta area in the 80s. So quickly became a fan of the AtlantaHawks and the Atlanta Falcons. Unfortunately, they let me down on a yearly basis. So I never really had a team to follow. The MLS was kind of in its infancy at the time. I always pay attention when the U.S. men's national team was playing during any international competitions, World Cups. It was always an interesting viewing experience. So I moved down to Florida a few years ago and met a guy who runs a local soccer bar, essentially. And so every morning they're playing a lot of the big Premier League games or even some of the other big European leagues, Bundesliga or Serie A. So I just, would join them and watch some of the games and figured I kind of needed a team to rally around and started researching some of the teams, their history. I came across Crystal Palace from South London. I like their colors, the red and the blue. The Eagles is very kind of American American feeling type of a club, owned by Americans, I believe. So it seemed like a pretty easy transition. I figured, hey, why not? Let me start following this club. And so this is pretty much my second year following Palace. It's almost jumped ship after they got off to such a dreadful beginning of the last season, going however many matches without points. Eventually brought in Roy. But it's been an interesting ride, and I've enjoyed it so far.
Good. If you're used to being let down with your home sides there, the AtlantaHawks, who I have absolutely no clue what sport they are. They could be a team of golfers. I'm really not sure. Basketball. Right, there we go. Basketball. Yeah, if you're being used to let down, then probably a good pick. But funnily enough, you could argue that this is probably, this last sort of recent history of Palace is the best patch we've had in the club's history since 1905 we came to be. So yeah, nearly 115 years now. And yeah, we're probably in the best patch we've ever been in. A couple of years ago, it was probably a bit better, and we were pushing sort of 7th and 8th, sort of halfway through the season. Obviously, it's going to take a bit of hard work to keep moving up that table, but I think we're safe from relegation at the moment, so you should be good. Going back to the original question, Eric, what about you? What's your kind of background and your history with this?
So I currently live in Atlanta, Georgia, but I grew up in Michigan. So naturally grew up a Michigan Wolverines football fan. That's college American football. Kind of opposite to Palace. We've got, the biggest college football stadium in the world and, pretty good historically. You can maybe compare it to like a Liverpool, how had some past success, but hadn't really been able to get to the national championship as of late. But how I guess I got to fall into Crystal Palace. So I grew up playing soccer, grew up playing football, and played for 15 years of my life. And then going into college, decided not to play. So my freshman year, played some pickup, but just kind of missed soccer. And so going into my sophomore year, I thought, hey, it'd be great to follow a Premier League team. There's no MLS team in Detroit and probably won't be in the future. And so got to college, moved to the South. And so I thought it'd be great to pick a Premier League team. And so I looked at in the 2013-2014 season, the teams getting promoted. We had Hull, Cardiff City, and Palace. And so I thought I'd, kind of watch a few of their games and kind of go from there. And so what initially piqued my interest for Palace was freshman year of college, we would drink Crystal Palace vodka. It's like a bottom shelf vodka. It's $10 for a half gallon, or a handle, we call it. And so that initially piqued my interest for Palace. And so I watched a few games, really kind of fell in love with the play style, kind of counter-attacking style, played our best ball when we got like 25% of the possession of the game. And, we had guys like Yannick Bolasie, Pop Soiree, some bigger guys like Delaney and Ledley. And of course, the fan base was just great. I was able to get to a game in 2015. It was not a home game at Sellers Park, but it was over at Stamford Bridge. And I was in the Palace section, and, the guys are just cheering the whole time. And, it's going to be louder than the actual home base. So from there, I just come in locked in, and it's been great. Since moving to Atlanta, I was able to find a Crystal Palace supporters club. And I think that really helps the community. I also listen to podcasts. And so, it's had its highs and lows, but you can't have your high highs without your low lows, especially after the start of last season going 0-7. But like you said, we are in our golden years, and, it's been good so far.
So, it's interesting you say that. All the supporter clubs all over the place. Well, all over the world, really. But, there's quite a few in America. My girlfriend's sister works for British Airways and obviously gets flown everywhere, all over the world. And she was in San Francisco a few weeks ago, sent me a picture out of the blue. And she stumbled across the Palace Supporters Club, and she joined them. They took her in. She told them about me. And, they sounded like a nice little bunch. So I think football over there is kind of growing at a really fast rate, isn't it? So when you say that there's not likely to be a MLS team in Detroit anytime in the near future, why is that exactly?
It's really just the market. They're expanding the league into bigger markets like Nashville. They did Minneapolis recently, Miami. Detroit just, it's a bigger city, but it's just not growing as fast. With that being said, you've got new markets like Atlanta right now, and Atlanta United's a team that won the championship last year. So overall, there is, I would say holistically in the nation, there is a strong growing for soccer. A lot of kids grow up playing soccer, AYSO. Yeah, it's just kind of an anomaly, I guess, that Detroit couldn't get a team.
Okay. I find it really interesting. It doesn't make too much sense to me, but I suppose when football was establishing itself in England, it was long before my time, so I kind of missed that whole phase, I guess. But Jack, what about your background? You're in Illinois, great hip-hop capital of your country, well, one of the capitals. But yeah, what about you and your sport backgrounds?
The only reason I supported Palace is because one day I was playing FIFA, I think it was back in 2014, with my friend, and I wanted to prove how good I was. So I was like, what's the shittiest team? And he's a Chelsea fan, so he was playing with Chelsea. And I asked, what's the shittiest team? He said Crystal Palace. I think that was despite the fact that, I think it was the Chris Ten Bowl year. late 2014, was it? Whatever. Either way, I played with them. I beat them. And in general, I just was like, fuck it, that's my team. Because I was pretty young. I was like 11 back then because I'm not very old now. So I've been with them ever since. And to be fair, I was a Stoke fan for a day, but then I chose not to be a Stoke fan. Thank God for that. And then back way before that, my parents would always buy me United stuff. Like they bought me like a bunch of United documentaries. I think it was a Class 92, that one. And they also bought me the David Beckham one. I technically was almost a United supporter and almost a Stoke supporter. But then I ended up with Palace. And I'm very happy because I quite like being disappointed every weekend. I guess I could have gotten the same thing with Stoke, but that would just be so fucking boring. Because at least we have a good supporter group here. And Stoke is just not quite that.
So you're a bit of a sadist then. Really makes you kind of perfect for the fan base, yeah?
Yeah, I think it's more fun. I don't like winning every weekend. That's why I got really bored with American football because my dad grew up in Pittsburgh. So I was a Steelers fan, which is American football, just based on the fact that when I was growing up, early 2000s, mid 2000s, we would always win stuff, always in the Super Bowl. So, you know, it's just kind of like, okay, cool, Super Bowl again, always in the playoffs. Got really bored of it. And plus, American football for me is just the most dreadful thing to watch now. I tried to watch the Super Bowl, watched 3 minutes, and got absolutely bored out of my mind. So I just couldn't be bothered. And now instead I watch like Serie A, Bundesliga, basically everything I can, whenever I can.
That's good. I think I lasted more than 3 minutes. It was probably about 5 or 6. But yeah, no, I'm exactly on the same page with you here. Mentioning the Super Bowl quickly, and obviously we're an American theme today. This is directed to all three of you as well. American football is just rugby with pads, right?
It's very stop and start. I guess rugby is very free flowing, similar to soccer, to your type of football. But I would say it has such a big cultural following in America. I've grown up in the South, especially. So predating professional football is college football, which has been huge for over 100 years. Your powers like your Alabamas, your Texas, recently Florida State, Clemson, Tennessee. You know, the college game has a big following in the American South, and then that eventually translated into a professional league, the NFL, in the 50s and the 60s when they merged with the AFL. So I think it's just because it's sort of set aside on the weekends. You have your college football on Saturday, you have your professional football on Sunday. It's such a big event. There's only 16 games in the regular season of the professional sport, so every game means so much more. And so I think that's how it became to have such a huge following over here.
It really fascinates me, the link between English/European sports and then American sports, because you've got American football, we've got rugby, they're very similar. You've got baseball, we've got cricket, again, obviously derived from the same kind of fundamentals of the game. And then you've got NASCAR, we've got F1. And I found out something interesting about NASCAR recently. It's actually got the highest turnout for viewers out of all of the sports in America. Did you guys know that?
I actually live about an hour from Daytona Motor Speedway, the Daytona 500, which is a huge following. They can get something like 160,000 people in this large stadium built with a track. But I would actually say NASCAR's following has been declining in the past decade or so, especially once the economy went down in 2008. So I think my generation, I'm in my 20s, I think my generation is really supporting basketball and soccer, global soccer, as the kind of two fastest growing sports around the world.
I mean, yeah, MLS, sort of the soccer, how it's rooted in your country, it's definitely getting a lot bigger and it's definitely growing at quite a fast rate. And you see the same thing with China. They're doing it in a lot of Asian countries as well. They're pumping money into the sort of the roots of the game, obviously starting at like a very young age for sort of youth football schools, skill schools, all that kind of stuff. And that's where it kind of all comes from if you get kids interested in a very early age. Because over here, it's very, very big for kids to be into that kind of thing. We have the under 7s, the under 8s. Me and my dad used to manage my hometown's under 7s team through till they were under 13 or something like that. And then from then, I actually started to become a little player myself as well. So looking at where MLS is now and the levels of where the teams are now, where do you think they'd compare with English teams, say? I mean, if you threw them in against Man City, Liverpool, or teams like that, I think everyone here is on the same page that they'd probably get beaten. Whereabouts in the Football League do you think that they'd comfortably fit and stay, if that makes sense?
I think they'd be more better suited for maybe Championship, League One. I just don't think the physicality is there. The speed's definitely slower, the pace. I think it'd be tough for even the best of MLS teams to really compete. I guess in the Premier League, I think they'd be relegation zone a lot.
Okay, all right, thanks for that. Okay, so, right, that's the end of part 2. Coming up in part 3, we're looking ahead for the next few games, league finish predictions, and obviously the rest of the FA Cup as well. Just another quick word from our second sponsors, Crystal Palace Taffy Shop, for all your taffy needs. Go to crystalpalacetaffy.co.uk/the SE25 cast for some free taffy. Thank you.
Yes.
Right, hello, welcome back to part 3 of this American FA Cup special of the SE25 cast. So, welcome back. I'm with Eric, Wes, and Jack, 3 actual Americans who have joined us today. So, hi guys, how are you all again?
I'm good.
Good, thanks.
Fantastic.
Fantastic is what we like to hear. Right, I want to ask you guys a few questions about where do you think the league's going to go? So, put yourself in final day here. Essentially, our league finished. Where can you see us? I mean, because obviously we've got Bats in now. Obviously, he didn't really play well today, but who knows what's yet to come from him. Wolf's going to be back, and he's been playing a lot better recently. So, Jack, where do you see us finishing realistically?
Honestly, I wrote like a little table out for this, but I think we got something like 12 more game weeks left, so 12 more games. I think we'll settle around 40 points again. Maybe at the upper end will be like 45, 44 points, lower end like 38. So it's not going to be like the most comfortable finish ever again, but I think we'll just manage to stay somewhat mid-table again. It's kind of disappointing, but I mean, that's what you come to expect.
So that's a point a game on average, give or take, because we're 27 now.
Yeah, it's a bit ambitious, but we have a couple games that I think are winnable. We play Leicester, Burnley, Brighton, Huddersfield, Newcastle, Cardiff, Everton, and Bournemouth. Those games, I think most of those are winnable, especially the Burnley, Huddersfield, and like Leicester games.
Well, if you look at it another way, looking at our fixture list now, for the rest of the Premier League season, the only big 6 clubs we have left are home to Man United and away to Arsenal in April. Everyone else is bottom 12 clubs. What do you reckon about that, Eric?
Well, it's certainly in our favor. You know, we're going to be playing a lot of these mid-table teams, like you said. I think, last week with West Ham, we got to get points from these guys. With that being said, we're putting a lot of shots on goal, and our defense has been pretty stellar. So, at 1 point a game, I think that is doable. It's kind of unfortunate that's kind of the realistic case that it's kind of our ceiling. But, I think that we're going to have a good finish this season. I think we've got good form right now and can keep it going.
Seems to be the Palace way that we kind of typically finish quite strong and start weak. If only we can find the consistency to kind of keep going strong, it will do wonders. Focusing on the next few in general, I've got Leicester away, then Man United at home, and then Burnley away, and then obviously the big one, Brighton, in that. What can you see coming from that, Wes?
Kind of echoing on what the others have said, it's a pretty favorable stretch. Like I said, I think having Bats for the rest of the season, if we get him up top with Zaha, I think that'll really start to make us a little bit more of a potent attack, something we've been missing. And I believe we took down Leicester 1-0 earlier in the season, some of these other mid-table opponents, and we have revenge for Brighton coming up. So I do definitely think we've played better than our points would indicate, and we'll kind of pull away from that bottom section, that relegation zone pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that we've played better than our position has shown, because I was going to get onto that. So, just on paper, our squad is fantastic at the moment. It really, really is. I mean, Roy doesn't play exactly how I would. I'd definitely be starting Mayer for one, maybe a couple of other changes. But on paper, our squad is fantastic. I mean, I've had a lot of people even say that our squad would maybe not win, obviously, but would at least put up a good fight in the Europa League if we were to get there. How do you feel about that, Jack?
I mean, I'd like to agree, but at the same time, it's kind of hard to say. I think our squad would suit a mid-table, like more comfortable mid-table Premier League kind of finish. I think that would be our natural position with these players. Zaha's quite good, obviously. Mayers can play quite well most games. Batshuayi, if he was finishing, if we had someone to finish, I think we'd create a ridiculous amount of chances for the position we're in, and we just need to put them away. We just haven't been able to do that. And I don't know if this season, if we're in the Europa League, I think we'd struggle quite a bit despite our good squad. But I think maybe next season, if we do get a striker, I think we honestly could be 7th, 8th place and maybe push for Europa League. But, it's always hopeful, and it never really happens.
So that's an interesting point you raised, because 7th in the table at the moment are Wolves. And I assume you guys have been watching Wolves this year. They've been fantastic. On paper, we have a better squad than them. We do. They have some fantastic players, of course, but on paper, our squad is better. So therefore, it comes to, in practice, I mean, could you perhaps say that it might be the manager's, maybe not fault, because he does do well, but I mean, is it maybe Roy's input that maybe we're not utilising as well as we should, Eric?
No, I do agree with that. I think the reason why we aren't, 10th right now, for example, is ultimately due to Roy's decisions in the past. You mentioned, Meyer not getting a lot of starts, and I do think he should be in the starting lineup every game or most of the games. I think there is a little uncertainty on what could be done up top, but we do have a lot of opportunities, or I guess options now. So, with that, I think we get Meyer in the middle. We get a consistent striker up top who's starting to get some confidence, whether that's Benteke who starts scoring some more goals or Bats. I think that's going to be up to Roy ultimately, but it will be we're kind of talking about our realistic finish, but if we have our ideal finish, it'll ultimately be because of Roy. I mean, our players, like you said, are great on paper and have shown in the past at least to be able to do well. So it'll be up to Roy to just kind of put the pieces where they need to be.
It seems to be the typical way that we do tend to finish quite strongly, and I do believe we'll have a very strong surge. So next, for example, is Leicester, and Leicester are one above us in the table. There's 5 points there, but we beat that. That's the 2-point gap that could be overtaken in a week. A lot of people worrying, saying, "Oh, we're maybe in a relegation fight," and all this kind of stuff. But I mean, you'd never say that about Leicester. You wouldn't say that about Bournemouth this season, and we're as close to those teams as we are to the relegation zone. Well, within reason. So, what do you reckon, Wes?
Yeah, I would think, again, like I said before, we shouldn't really be in a fight for relegation. I mean, of course, we're only 2 points clear or 3 points clear at the moment. But a lot of the advanced stats, I don't know how the things you look at, it could be XG or whatever. A lot of them have indicated we're kind of underperforming and maybe it should straighten itself out. The one I look at a lot is 538's projections, where they project how the tables are going to look in a lot of the major leagues. And they actually give Crystal Palace one of the better ratings, SPI ratings, based on our offense, our attack, and our defense. And so, like I said, I think it's just a matter of, as it kind of goes forward, we'll get some goals, maybe off some lucky breaks, some things that can help even out our luck a little bit and try to aim for that mid-table spot.
It's funny you mentioned 538. I saw one of their lists they did the other day. They ranked Palace as, I think it's 54th, maybe 55th or something, of the best team in the world. And I think that blew my mind. I remember going to, all these Coventry away games in Tuesday night championship football when we're fighting for 17th place and all this kind of stuff. And now 538's listing us as a better team than Fiorentina's, better than Besiktas, and it's really incredible how we've come on leaps and bounds. Going on from that, it makes me feel really proud in a way to be a Palace fan, because I've been there, since the beginning. I've been there since day one. I've lived through all the shit. Not so much. I mean, do you guys know what a glory hunter is? Have you heard the term glory hunter? All I'm saying is where I've come from and what, my Palace history has been is kind of almost the opposite to that, I feel, because I've struggled and struggled and struggled and struggled, and now I'm eventually kind of starting to reap the benefits, I guess, with the odd game beating City, putting 3 past Liverpool, finishing joint 10th last year. That was also really good. FA Cup final, 16, and hopefully again now. Yeah, have you heard of what glory hunters are?
Yeah, we certainly have a lot of those in the U.S. A lot of, Man City fans, Man U fans, Chelsea fans, etc. I'm sure there are some, genuine fans out there that have some connections to those bigger teams, but a lot of them just look at the top of the table and pick a team to follow. And to your point, there's something to be said about delayed gratification and overall having high highs. And you really can't have high highs without low lows, though. Little things like, I guess, looking at this Leicester City game coming up. Last year, obviously, Benteke had a real rough spell. And, when he got that penalty kick late in the game and was able to put it back after, missing the one that he took from Luka, games prior, and he was able to make it, and, all the team going to him and celebrating. You can tell, like, there's just raw emotion on his face. Stuff like that, just amazing to see. And you really can't have that when, you're just expecting to win the entire time. So I do think it's been great overall as an American fan to not be a glory hunter, I guess you'd say, and follow a team like Palace, just because you get those moments of greatness.
Yeah, I have to agree. There's so many over here. I've got a lot to say about this topic, but I'll try to keep it short. But it really pisses me off. I live in Chicago, and it's a city that's growing. Millennials are moving back in and everything. And you see a lot of people, like you said, with the growing sport, moving back in. And, when you go to a bar and watch a match day, all it is all City fans, Liverpool, Chelsea. And it's just like, you just want to punch them all. It's so annoying. Because then when you say you support Palace, and then they're like, why you support Palace? It makes no sense. Like, well, I think they missed the point of football. Like, because we lose some weeks and we win some weeks, we draw some weeks, we lose to Burnley, we'll lose to Brighton, but there will also be, City. I think it's a much more interesting fan experience, in my opinion. I think it just brings up like a whole other problem with a lot of Americans have. And God, it's just, I don't know why this annoys me so much. And living in Chicago, again, I met so many people at these different bars, and I haven't met a single person who supports anyone outside of the top 6, except for 2 people who go to my school, but they're both British people. They both are from England. One supports Derby County, and one supports Villa, but they're both from North Birmingham and Derby, respectively, so it makes more sense. That's literally the only people I've ever met in America that support no one. Like, again, this annoys me. I'll pass over to Wes now, because I'm going to keep going for ages if I'm allowed to.
No, my experience is actually almost exactly like that. Yeah, all my friends who support an English club, all of the big 6, basically, outside of one fan I know who supports Newcastle, it's all about, trying to celebrate, I guess, like you said, glory hunters. But just from where I came from, a lot of the teams I support, they don't particularly win championships. My 2 favorite teams, the Hawks and the Falcons over here, they let me down constantly. The Falcons, blew the biggest lead in Super Bowl history. But, I know the one day, if they do ever win a Super Bowl, will be something I'll treasure and cherish forever. And so that's kind of how I feel about supporting a team like Palace, where it's, it's about the culture, the history, the, representing South London. And if Crystal Palace are ever able to, make a Europa League run or whatever, or possibly make a league run towards winning a trophy, that'll be very special. That'll kind of mean more than maybe one of these big clubs who are always in the mix. So that's just how I feel. Like I said, that's the sort of person I am. I like to sort of choose a different path than what everyone else is doing. And that's part of the reason why I support Palace.
I think you hit the nail on the head there. I think the best way to sum it up is we're a very real club. There's a lot of very fake clubs out there, very touristy clubs. There's a lot of different names for them, but we're a very real club. I mean, we've come from not much. We have got a lot of history. We've seen some absolute megastars come through our ranks. Obviously, Ian Wright springs to mind, one of the best footballers of his generation. We've always been there, you know. We've caused a lot of upsets. We're always a team that's on everyone's mind. Everyone knows about us. We're a very real club. We've got a lot of culture to us, I guess. So, yeah, good choice. Good choice with that. And you're right, it's more than just about winning games, winning trophies. It's about enjoying your time out, having a good day, being part of the community. I think going to match days is one of my favourite things to do. I've got a good old tradition there, obviously biggest one. And that brings me on to our final sponsor here. That would be Tasty Jerk. Going to Tasty Jerk on match day, it's absolutely brilliant. If you don't know, it's a little, I hesitate to say restaurant. It's a food establishment based next to the Palace ground. Beautiful West Indian cuisine. I grew up on West Indian cuisine, so I absolutely adore it. It's just little things like that, you know, like going and seeing the same people, having your little group, going to the pub. That's what it's all about for me. And yeah, I think Palace hit that perfectly. I haven't actually always been a Palace fan. I said since day one earlier, but that's not technically true. It's more since day two. Day one, I was actually a Manchester United fan when I was a very, very, very young kid. All because of David Beckham. When I was, 4, 5, he was God. Basically, he was God to everyone. So yeah, when I was really young, my dad used to take me to Palace, and I used to say, "No, I'm a Man U fan. I'm a Man U fan." Now, obviously, I kind of got a couple more years on me, started realising, and yeah, I've been there ever since. It's fantastic, and you should get all your mates to come over, come to a game. I don't know if you've all actually been to games yet. I think Eric, you said you have. But yeah, come over, eat some chicken, go to the games, and have a good old time. It's fantastic over here. Okay, just as a last off then, before we do leave it for this special episode of the SE25 cast, our next games in order, let's go for the next three, is Leicester, Man United and Burnley. Let's go for scores, predicted scores, Jack.
I think we'll beat Leicester pretty handedly. We put 8 past them last season, and I want to keep that going. We're kind of a bogey team. We're going to go 5-0. We're going to beat them 5-0. Very realistic. And then we're going to beat Man United 5-0, and then Burnley 5-0.
Very optimistic from Jack there. Eric, what about you? You more down to earth?
Yeah, I'll be a little bit more realistic. We have had great form against Leicester City. We had 3-0, 5-0 last year. I'm going to say we're going to go 2-1. Granted, it is an away game. I think we will win this next game. Man United is at home. I think we're going to draw against them. Burnley is away. I'm going to go probably with a 1-0 loss there. But overall, getting 4 points in the next 3 games, I think is realistic and something we can do.
1-0 loss to Burnley would probably make me kill myself. I went to the home game a couple of months ago. We beat them 2-0, Andros, and I forget the first goal scorer. I think it was Tompkins, if I'm not wrong. We were all over them. It's probably the most in control and comfortable game I've seen us have all year. So, totally could happen. They're in a relegation battle. That'll just change everything. Personally, I think we will beat Leicester, we will lose to United, and we will beat Burnley. So, going a bit traditional there. What about you, Wes?
It'll be a little bit different. I say we draw Leicester 1-1. Our form against the big 6 clubs has been really pretty good, but Man U's form has been pretty good since dumping Mourinho and going with Solskjaer. So I say we take a 1-0 lead into halftime and drop 3-1 in typical Palace fashion.
Very specific, I like it. Put a few quid on the bookies with that, you'll probably get some good odds. Do you want to start your little pyramid scheme? I'm yet to cash in, but one day I will. Okay, all right, so I guess that concludes everything from the American special FA Cup podcast of the SE25 cast. So I want to thank you guys for joining us. That's Eric, Wes and Jack from the actual real America. And just a farewell word from our final sponsors, Crystal Palace Crystal Balls. For all your clairvoyant needs, go on down and you should know where it is, unless of course you don't have one yet.